It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Tuesday. Gary, how are you?
I'm doing great.
All right.
Everything's all right.
Good.
Can't complain.
Good.
Nobody would care anyway.
Well, we can complain for the next 5 hours at least.
That's true.
Yeah, why not?
And that's my job.
It's kind of the job.
My job is sort of complaining.
Right, yeah. We can complain, actually. We should say that instead of we can't complain. Yeah, we can and we're going to.
All right, I'll start out with just one little football note.
All right, what?
Damar Hamlin had an interception last night, his first interception ever. This isn't about football. Damar Hamlin was, remember, almost died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would have died on the field.
Right, yeah.
For the Bills. He had his first interception last night.
Wow.
So that's a human story, just so you know.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because yesterday I watched the Netflix has a new documentary on Apollo 13.
Oh.
And it's all, except there may be some animation that they did. Either they did or they borrowed from NASA. I don't know. But it's all real footage. And all the voices of Gene Kranz and the astronauts. And it's amazing to, we all saw the movie. What's interesting is that the documentary, when they go through the moments of where they were, what was going on, how they were trying to deal with, they sound to us, they sound calm, cool, and collected. In the movie, obviously, it's a little more dramatic. You're trying to portray maybe what they were going through. But, the point is to make the parallel here. It's, they were asked, okay, do you think it was a failure? Well, all right, in the sense that we didn't accomplish what we originally set out to do, yeah, but the fact that we were able to put things together and work as a team and get those three men back safely to Earth is nothing short of a miracle. I mean, it was, and everybody in the world was watching on. It really was, it was like the moon landing, except everything was about these three lives. Can you get them back? And so when you watch it, when you think about it, it wasn't about a failure. And I think maybe that's with some kind of what the movie left you feeling, that, wow, they didn't get to. And I mean, for me, I didn't feel that way.
No, I didn't feel that way from the movie at all.
Born into the space age. But I've seen so many people say, well, I mean, if they only, you didn't really get the story. Well, the story wasn't, the story really wasn't even just about NASA. I mean, it's about modern engineering, the ability to find things out because of the experience and work that you've put in up to that point, and I think sometimes we look at something on the surface, first interception. Ooh, that's a bad night. It's not about the football,
Well, no,
Apollo 13.
He had the interception.
Oh yeah, well, it's a bad night for the quarterback.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's there's it's not even about any one thing where in that chain of events of what happened with Apollo 13, where they got back to, Earth. It was everything. I mean, it was every single moment that they put into it from the moment that explosion happened. And I was on the edge of my seat, and I knew the ending.
Yeah, I remember the ending. Gene Kranz's book, Failure is Not an Option, is a great book. I read it. That's got to be like 25, 30 years old now, that book. It's a great book because it goes from the beginning of Gemini,
Right.
the beginning of it all the way through. And when you read it, you're like, oh, my God, I would have never been an astronaut back then.
Right.
Because the chances that they took are not chances that they take today.
Well,
Well, I guess if you say riding a Boeing, except for riding a Boeing spaceship up to the...
I thought about that the whole time. Well, because I thought, it was, do we have enough, with Apollo 13, do they have enough air to breathe? Do they have what it takes to get back? Can the lunar module actually power them to get them back when they go around the moon? The comment that was made about people don't realize that in space there really is no nighttime until you get over to the other side of the moon. And then the stars are so much brighter. They are just so much brighter when you're over there. And then, of course, and we've talked about this, the vision, in that window of Earth. And it was like I was watching that documentary. It was so well done. It was like I was living it all over again.
Well, I think the two things that were pretty miraculous in there, and people saw it in the movie, one would have been figuring out how to improvise with the equipment that you have and come up with the carbon dioxide scrubber. So they could have the oxygen, so the carbon dioxide levels didn't get up there, and that was how they put that together was amazing. And then figuring out the engineering, and which is physics, physics of how to get that capsule that was not the weight it should have been because of they didn't have the rocks with them and everything else, but how to get that space capsule back in limited with the actual, I guess, thrusters and everything else that they had at that moment. Figuring that out had to be really, really pressure-filled at that point. So it was really, to me, it was a movie on engineers and adapting, innovation, everything else coming together, never expecting something like this to happen. And slowly, some of the greatest things I've friends in my life that I believe have done really good things, and they're surprised when I say, "Yeah, but what really impresses about me is not that there's something incredible where there's fireworks, but you're constantly plowing the field. You're just plowing ahead. You're just getting the job done. That's the only thing that you're about, and that's what and you just do it each and every day." And it may not be, you don't have crowds cheering for you as they did in Apollo 13, which is a great, I think, point to, great thing to bring up, and pretty decent analogy of Damar Hamlin and, him coming back, from, I never thought he would play again.
Well, and everybody, it stopped. I mean, really, everybody stopped. Yeah. And it was number one, praying for him to survive, praying for him to be able to just live and breathe and go on, enjoying his family, being in this world, and for him to get to the point of playing at this level again is, for anybody to get to the point, you said this a million times, for anybody to get to the point of playing in the NFL is amazing.
Yeah, I've never been one. I've known enough professional athletes where I've never been one. Not that you can't have somebody that has amazing natural talent that is arrogant and egotistical and a narcissist and a spoiled brat. We've seen those people, in the NFL and in other professional sports. But for the most part, it is complete and total dedication, your complete entire life. Where was I seen it the other day about where they talked about quarterbacks, which said you really during the season, you don't have any life at all. You have no life.
Right.
You're doing that 24/7, but it's an absolute, a tenth of a second can make the difference in whether you become a professional athlete or not. It's just the what you have to be in order to get there. So just to play, people sit there and go, well, you didn't become the MVP. I played, or the golfers that may not win a tournament or one tournament or two tournaments in a 20-year career, but they've been on the tour for 20 years and they stick with it, all the time, and they're out there each and every day. Those are the kind of people I look at, and I'm like, okay, that's really cool.
I admire this about a guy I graduated high school with, Marvin Allen. He's the assistant GM right now at Miami, and he played 4 years for the Patriots, and as a player, not somebody who's going to stand out. He was obviously great enough to make it to the NFL, but after that 4 years, went on to working in recruiting and everything else, including at Buffalo, Atlanta, I believe Kansas City, now at Miami, as I said. And, that to me is an incredible career, and you think about, you kind of look at, and it's like, okay, you keep going. You do what you know. You do what you know. You do what you know. And I'm thinking to myself, if I were on the Apollo 13 thing, if I'm in that capsule, I'm just, you have two choices: freak out or do the job. Just focus on what needs to be done in that moment. As you mentioned, building that filter. Look, use socks, use tape, use whatever they were telling them. I didn't realize how much real footage existed until this documentary. I knew it because I'd seen the clips here and there, but it wasn't used properly. And the people who put this together for Netflix, it's Apollo 13 Survival is the name of it. And it is a absolute must watch. It is persevering. It is a modern engineering story. You think about all the failures, if you want to call them failures, but missions that didn't happen and everything else, all the tragedies at NASA, and when you put everything into context, it is amazing that technology exists, but it only exists because of minds that were just honestly determined and probably destined to do what they do, whether it's a football player and that kind of physical ability and mental ability, and the engineers and putting something together like that in an emergency situation where three men are out in space, or 2/3 of the way to the moon, or anything that's going on right now here. What confounds me is I look around here, back here on Earth, and I'm like, all of these choices that we have made as a society that has people struggling. And that to me is so maddening, in that I've seen it. Society has seen people come together and say, we want these good things. We want these good things. We want these positive things. We want these things to happen. But it seems politically getting it together is a totally different story.
No matter what, whether we're talking about Apollo 13 or Damar Hamlin coming back and having the interception last night after being basically dead on the field, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work.
Right.
To get there, there's no other choice. The only other thing is, you talk about the movie. And again, it's just like Ron Howard with the boxing movie.
Cinderella Man.
Cinderella Man, where he made, what's his name? Jethro's father.
Max Baer.
Max Baer, seemed like this idiot when he wasn't an idiot at all.
Right.
And the Max Baer family was furious. The same thing with the Apollo 13 crew. They never argued. The scene where they're arguing and and yelling at each other never happened.
No, in fact, the closest they got to that is that at the beginning there was some talking over each other, trying to work through the problems, but they weren't debating on. It was, okay, this is what we've got this. They were all working at the same time.
Right.
And what needed to happen was, all right, let's focus on the problem and not talk
what I always think
over
is
each other.
dumb is when, a director or producer says, well, we needed it because it needed to be in there to increase the drama. No, it didn't.
No!
What are you talking about?
I'm telling you, with this documentary, edge of my seat. It's a nail biter, and I know the ending.
I know.
I can hear them talking because some of them doing the voiceover. Clearly
you've known the end of the story for over half a century,
and it was amazing. And it was how you piece it together, and that goes to the documentary makers. You've got to take those bits, you've got to put them together, and the close-ups on Gene Kranz's face and everybody else as they're going through those moments. I didn't know. I'd forgotten that all of that existed. Just amazing. Apollo 13 Survival on Netflix.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Did you know that up to half of all major engine failures are due to poor cooling system maintenance? That's a lot of downtime and can cost drivers big. You expect a lot from your engine, which is why the cooling system must be a part of your maintenance routine. Here's a tip to keep your cooling system in shape and your engine running smooth. Most cooling system issues are due to lack of coolant caused by leaks. Perform a pressure test to make sure no leaks are present. While this may cause the system to fail, you want it to fail in the shop, not on the road. If your pressure test uncovers any leaks in the system, have them repaired by a professional technician immediately.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up on the show today, a perfect example of the problem with the Harris campaign. I played the audio for you.
One of the many problems.
Meeting. I know, but this is just this is where they promote how she's going to solve the problem, and then the surrogates ask the question, well, is that the problem? Is that happening? Well, I have no idea. Actually said they have no idea whether the solution that she's talking about is going to solve a problem that exists. She doesn't know.
Yeah, she doesn't even know.
I mean, it is so bad right now. So we will get to that. The Harris campaign still talking about another debate. Stop it. That's dead. Trump in Pennsylvania. What else do we have? Voters agree. Here's the headline. Voters agree. Calling Trump a threat to democracy prompts political violence. Ooh.
Mm.
And
interesting.
Did you see, I mean, Bill Barr going crazy over the Department of Justice releasing what the attempted assassin had in there, including, I'll pay $150,000 for anybody who successfully, gets Trump, saying, you didn't need to put that out now.
Right.
You did not need to put that out whatsoever.
And I wondered I'm thinking to myself, all right, what's necessary to this case? What is necessary for the public to know?
Right. He didn't say you don't release it eventually in the investigation, but releasing it with that, with that seemingly sense of urgency with the election coming up. So here's $150,000. Goes, there's no reason to do that at all.
Right.
None.
Right. Yeah. What would be the purpose?
Yep.
That would be the question.
Yep. And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right, let's play this audio because this is probably my favorite audio from yesterday.
All right.
On Fox News, Sandra Smith with a surrogate from the I almost said Biden Harris campaign. Here we go.
What is Harris's plan? We're waiting.
Yeah, okay, there's
there's a lot of aspects to it in regards to looking at it online. So let's talk about lowering the grocery costs, because that's something that's brought up. The viewers can look at this online. She talks about certain things in regards to advancing the first federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries, to set clear rules to the road to make it clear that big corporations can't unfairly exploit consumers as well.
Is that
and
happening?
secure new
Is that happening?
It's not at this moment. No, this is her plan that's laid out for the first 100 days when she becomes president of the United States of America.
Gouging, is that currently happening?
In regards to I don't know exactly if that's currently happening or not, because I'm not privy to that type of information. Okay. But there are people are costing a lot of money in regards to groceries.
Okay. It seems like you're having a hard time articulating her plan. And
I'm not. Honestly, that's not true. Please, I'm constantly being interrupted by you, which, as a woman, I think is disrespectful. When I'm trying to speak, every time I try and speak, you speak over me.
Okay. Final thought.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right to identity politics.
Oh, my gosh.
Right to identity politics.
You want to talk about collapse.
Right to identity politics.
I'm a woman. How dare you?
Yeah. How do you know you're a woman?
Yeah.
Can you define yourself for me?
You didn't identify as a woman.
I would have had fun with that one. You're a woman.
Wow.
How do you know?
Is that happening? I don't know.
I mean,
is price gouging happening? It could be.
I don't know. I'm not privy to that stuff.
What do I look like? A grocery store clerk? Mr. Kellogg's over here? What do you think I am?
Oh my God. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
all right, we can go home now.
Yeah. That was horrible. But when you build something on nothing, the price gouging thing was over. The liberal media knew it went nowhere right out of the gate. You know, they thought they were going to get away with it because, Biden just lobs things out there as president. He'll walk out there. Well, today I've formed a new commission to look into that, the thing, and we're going to make it better. Thank you. Good day. And then he walks away. Well, as a candidate, you don't get to do that. As a candidate, you got to show we know there is price gouging going on right now. Because the only thing on price gouging, it's this way every time. California recently did it again on gas prices. The federal government has done it, I don't know how many times on gas prices. We're going to investigate to see if there was price gouging, and turns out there wasn't. There might be a few cases here and there, and you know how you know about them? They make the news. You know why? Because they're rare. And you can say, well, but the industry gouges, and blah, 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 blah. That's not gouging. There is supply and demand, and yeah, we'd all like to pay 10 cents a gallon. Yeah, we'd all like to pay 20 cents for, a licorice whip or whatever at the grocery store. I mean, we really live in this mindset. We would love for grocery prices to come down, and we'd like them to be rock bottom. Now let's talk about the reality and why we're at a massive inflation point at the grocery store, at the pump, and everywhere else. These are all choices. This has nothing to do with gouging, and it has everything to do with the policy put in place by members of Congress and elected officials.
Every economist knows. The public may not know. Democrats may not know. But as we've talked about, there is a huge ignorance about how economics works. Mm-hmm. Inflation is caused by the monetary policy of a government. End of story. Yeah. It's too many dollars chasing too few products. That's it.
Right.
That's it. That's why. That's the whole concept of even when Kamala Harris says $25,000 for whoever who wants to build a new home. Well, that, again, is loose monetary policy. You're just throwing money at a problem that's going to increase prices because that's what happens. That's what it does. You know, that's how economics works. And we still live in a nation. Sorry, of economic idiots who believe that the government can manipulate the economy to success.
Yeah.
We still live there.
Yep.
And it even exists on the Republican side.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
The populism you see right now. Well, our guy can do it right. Our guy can manipulate the economy correctly. But that doesn't matter in this election, because this election, to me, still every day I sit there and I look at every issue and I'm like, I pay attention, but it's still in my mind going, blah, 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 because this election is about one thing and one thing to me, and it's stopping the weaponization of government. That's what it's about. That's what it's about to me. I'll deal with all the economic differences that I have with the populist portion of the Republican Party if they get in power. But otherwise, this is about the weaponization of government. And it is the one election in my life where the weaponization of government and the not following and not one party absolutely making it clear they don't believe in the Constitution of the United States. That's what's driving me in this election. Everything else I can debate with Republicans if they win come January.
Yeah. I mean, the frustration, on the issue is that you talk about deregulation on one hand, and then you come in and go, and we're going to regulate this and regulate. Stop doing that. Create the environment, let capitalism do what it's going to do. But, it's amazing that we're at this point. Here we are 6 weeks ahead of the election. And you've got a surrogate that I don't know if she was expecting to get a walk. I don't know if she was expecting to, just get away with claiming things.
Well, this is a perfect example of why Democrats can't discuss the issues, and we've talked about this. This woman by the name of Kelly Hyman, Democratic strategist, who was on Fox News with Sandra Smith. And the fact is, this is the problem that Democrats have and will have. They cannot argue that they're right on the issues.
Right.
And they can throw out, because that was unbelievable. To be that unprepared.
Yeah.
I don't care. Well, there's been such a short time. What do you mean there's been such a short time? You could give me, if you gave me, the Republicans today changed candidates, I would know in 10 minutes how to promote that candidate. I would simply look at where they stand on the issues and go, all right, here it is, and here's why they're correct on it. I could do it without the candidate telling me to do it because I know the issues. These people are almost as if they're really ignorant on everything. They don't know how anything works. You give them the talking point, you ask one question, it completely throws them off. And that's the evidence to me that they don't know how the world really works. They don't know how economics works. They don't know how engineering works. They have no idea. They go to school, they come out, okay, just market it. Here's how you debate. You debate this way. No, you don't debate this way. You actually have to, in order to be a successful debater, you got to have a clue as to what's going on. Now, a lot of people have a clue of what's going on, but they're not good at communicating it. But they actually know what's going on. And that's probably we've criticized the Republicans for not communicating effectively at times, and it frustrates us because they're actually doing the right things. They can't explain it.
Well, she walked in with this massive heaping pile of rancid meat, and that being the idea that gouging is going on. That's already been put to rest. That's already ashes in the past. And she walks in with this big stinking pile of rancid meat thinking she's going to make a dinner out of it, on Fox News. That was the core mistake right there. Don't mention anything about in our first 100 days we're going to go after price gouging. That was already that fire was stomped out and the ashes were in the wind. Move on. And that's the problem. It's indicative of a campaign that has no direction because they're still sending people to Fox News to push a stupid idea that even the left knows is stupid. Even the left, remember the liberal media when she first did it wasn't a press conference. The cereal boxes had a press conference. They had a photo op, this weird photo op of groceries and stuff. And it was the first weekend. It was like, yeah, but that's not really, there's no, when you talk about price gouging and price fixing and everything else and price controls and all of that, no, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. Because that's it. You have to, in order to move on to price controls as a liberal, which, by the way, they would love price controls if they thought they could get away with it. If they had the votes on Capitol Hill and had the White House, man, they'd be doing that all day. They would love that. Eventually, to get to the means of production, controlling the means of production, which is communism. That's exactly what they would love to do. They would love to federalize energy. They would love to control the means of production of all the major core pillars of the economy. But they can't get away with it. So what do? Well, you make this emotional accusation, basically, emotionally based accusation that these big corporations are gouging when there's no evidence. And the fact is, you could find that evidence immediately, quickly, especially because many, if not most, of these companies that put groceries on the shelves are publicly traded. And you can look at the financials all day. And massive amounts of people would go to prison if they found that were happening. So this was a massive goose egg to begin with, and she decided to go with it. And it shows exactly what you said. There's no education in this. She didn't know that. Well, she didn't know how bad this idea was, taking it to Fox. And she took it to Fox News.
It's a total lack of preparation.
Yeah.
Completely. It's like,
it's horrible.
We can just wing it.
Right.
I had a program director in radio tell me one time when they wanted me to do like 3 radio shows in a day, and I went, I just can't do 3.
Yeah.
And just wing it.
Just wing it.
You don't wing this kind of stuff. I'll never forget it. Just wing it.
No, this is work.
My father, I told it to my father. This is years ago, decades ago. I told it to my father will tell me all the time. I'll say, I'm not really sure. He goes, well, just wing it. And it's all based on that conversation I had with him a long time ago. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Some interesting polls out yesterday. We will get to that. Did you see Leon Panetta and also Brennan came out against what Israel did with the pagers?
Yeah.
Brennan saying it's a form of terrorism.
Right.
You know, as was pointed out, I think it was Andrew McCarthy pointed out in National Review. Yeah. Thanks, Leon. So, yeah, when Obama was president, you didn't want to capture, Al-Qaeda operatives.
Right.
You wanted to kill them, and it got a lot of civilians killed, too, instead of trying to capture them to get information because you knew you didn't want to do that. Because, remember, everything changed when Obama came in with interrogation. You just decided to kill them, and there was a ton of collateral damage. Yeah, you people are the ones that should be telling Israel what to do.
Right.
And Brennan, the same thing.
Yeah, Brennan is he's I want to say laughable, but there's nothing funny about the way that he behaves, especially knowing that. By the way, does he still have clearance, or did he lose his clearance? I'm not sure what if. Yeah. I know at one point he had it for far too long, in my opinion.
I don't know. That's a great point, though.
But when you look at this,
you mean Brennan, not.
Yeah, I was saying Brennan.
Right.
Yeah.
Not Panetta.
Panetta.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when you look at that, the, this idea that, well, they're acting like terrorists. What do you think Hezbollah's doing? What do you think Hamas is doing? What do you think this is? This shows you, by the way, that neither of them qualified to do what they did, Panetta or Brennan.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He is Eric Harley. You know, the biggest scandal right now in the United States, as we talked about yesterday, is Biden's cognitive problems right now. Nobody knows who's running the White House. You know, we mentioned yesterday when they were having a cabinet meeting, he said a couple of words and handed it over to Jill to run the meeting. That was one of the most bizarre things ever. And then him not knowing that he had to introduce the Indian prime minister.
Right.
Which, again, is something as was, I think it was Pete Ducey said, he's got everything in front of him. All he's got to do is look down and it tells him who's next.
Yeah.
You know, everything's written down for the president. He doesn't have to guess. It's written there.
Unless they're using an earpiece to assist him.
That could be it. But he said they probably do both.
Right. I mean, I guess the
Right.
point would be if he's relying on, or there's a reason that they believe he has to rely on the earpiece and forgets to look down at what's in front of him.
Yeah.
I mean,
either way it's
Yeah.
a problem.
No,
You're not lessening the problem. You're not trying to lessen the problem. What you're saying is it's a bigger problem.
No, I think it's actually right now the worst, and we know how this works. If you've got cognitive issues, it doesn't get better with time. It only gets worse, and this is the worst it has been. Tell me the last time he made any appearance without some kind of real moment.
Yeah. Well, this is a creepy moment from yesterday where he said his staff doesn't allow him to have young girls on the stage, and then he invites them up. I mean, they're just as creepy as you can get. Here it is.
You know, I thought when I got to be president, I'd get to do things that I want to do, but my staff tells me what I can't do. But I'm going to do it anyway. All the young women, young kids out there that are out there, come on up and do this when we stand behind me when we do this. Come on.
Wow. As creepy as you can get.
They're telling you can't bring young girls on stage? What?
Yeah.
What are they telling you? And why are they telling you that? And why are you saying it out loud that they're telling you that?
Yep.
Oy. What in the world? By the way, Creepy Joe has been around for a while. I'm not so sure that's a cognitive issue as much as it is the whole creepy thing that's been there.
Well, the cognitive
a while.
The cognitive is saying it out loud.
Well, I don't know that he cared before. I mean, he was sniffing hair in front of people on stage. I mean, seriously, who does that? He's been doing that for years. Yeah, so it's likely all the above, and it's weird.
It's just, right now that's the biggest scandal. We all know, every Democrat knows he should not be president of the United States. He does not have the cognitive abilities to do it.
And I think there's...
And in fact, that's why they won't admit it, but that's why they forced him out.
And I think...
is because it became obvious to the American public.
And I think knowing how defiant he is, I think since they forced him out of the race, I think he doesn't give a damn. I just don't think... I think he doesn't even care. So you throw in his cognitive issues and his attitude, and a decent helping of creepy whatever that was. And yeah, it's disaster every time he walks out, anytime he goes in public. There's just no way around it. I bet they're wondering, hey, how soon can we just get Jill to do every public appearance for him?
But that was so, it's just so bizarre.
That's how desperate they've become.
It would have made sense if he brought Harrison and had Harris run the meeting. And then everybody leaves.
Actually, it would have made a lot of sense, except for the fact that he's really not that into Harris. Harris really
I know that.
There's the problem. But it would have been actually a good campaign move for her.
Absolutely.
Look, we know she's going to be doing this for years to come. So, and she has some things on her. There's so many problems with it. Number one, number two, they don't want to be in the same room together. Number 3, 4, 5, she's not capable of leading a cabinet meeting.
Well, you don't have to stay for it all.
Yeah.
The cameras don't have to be.
You just read what's in front of you?
Right. She just reads in front. I'm glad to be here. Great to be here with the cabinet. We're going to continue this through November.
Don't forget, I come from a middle-class family.
I come from a middle-class family, as all of you do. Does everybody here come from a middle-class family?
Yes.
Oh, no, you don't?
No. Out. This is a cabinet meeting of middle-class families people. The only middle-class family.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying the cameras stay in there for the entire meeting. You just hand it over to her. Thank you so much. And now, the vice president and I are going to familiarize, her with the whatever. I mean, however you do it, blah, 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 blah. Then everybody gets kicked out, and you get that image, of the pictures that the Harris campaign can use. I mean, that you may be against a certain Hatch Act or something for doing that.
Yeah.
But, they don't mind bringing Zelensky in, and that was the question, bringing Zelensky into Pennsylvania.
Right.
The Harris campaign, apparently he'll also meet with Trump. But they flew that, he came in on, an American military plane.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's like, did taxpayer money pay for this so he can campaign? Talk about election interference.
Right.
So he can campaign for Harris in Pennsylvania.
Right.
By the way, that's not going to change anybody's mind to vote.
No, that's you're just trying to rally the. I don't know what they're trying to do, but the best you can do is get a nod from your base that's already there with you.
You saw she's going to go to the border too.
The border in Ukraine, because that's the one she cares about. I'm sorry, which border?
We'll get to that coming up. This was an interesting poll here, and America First Insight had it from the Teamsters polls. While the Teamsters is neutral and National Teamsters polls swung 32 points towards Trump after Biden dropped out, the battleground Teamsters are far worse for Harris. I have a hard time believing this. One of the polls has to be wrong. I don't believe you had this kind of switch. I don't, because you're talking mind-boggling numbers, and if union members are indicative of any demographic of the United States, then the polls should have Trump up huge. Because here's what it showed. Arizona, when Biden was running against Trump, the claim is from the union that Biden had a 24.6 lead, 24 over 20 and a half points ahead of Trump, 54.4 to 29.8. Now, with Harrison, Trump 57.3, Harris 38.7, a 43-point swing. 43-point swing. Pennsylvania, 34-point swing for Trump from Biden, in Trump's favor from Biden to Harris. Mm-hmm. Michigan, 52-point swing. From, again, same thing. Biden was up big time. Look at this here. Biden was up 57.8. Trump was at 32. This was when Biden was running. 25 points Biden lead. Trump up 61.7 over Harris, 35.2, a 26.5 point lead for Trump. What changed between Biden and Harris? To make that kind of, I'm not saying there hasn't been a change. I just don't buy those numbers. I don't know which numbers I don't buy. The beginning under Biden or the one under Harris.
And do we know the timeline of when those Biden numbers were taken?
I don't have that in front of me, no. But
But it wasn't from the 2020 race. It was from when Biden was still in this race.
Yeah, from what I know. I don't have they don't have the timeline here for it. North Carolina, 52-point swing. Nevada, 29-point swing. Minnesota, 44-point swing. Virginia, 38-point swing, even though Trump was up in Virginia to begin with, 7.5. Now he's up 45.2. You just don't have that kind of movement from any demographic in that short of a time, unless it was from way back.
From the 2020 run. At this point in the 2020 run.
No. April 9th.
Of 24.
April 9th to July 3rd of 24.
Okay.
Is when I see these straw polls. They're using straw polls, things like that. So. But is that the full membership or just a straw poll? Because I look at those swings and say, if that was true for that demographic, then Trump is up 15 points in the election.
If you cut that in half, if you cut the swing in half, he's got a solid lead.
Yeah. And again, it's just one group of Teamsters, but Teamsters is a wide variety of people all across the entire country. And I did see the thing that in the Teamsters, every single state, the Teamsters, the majority want Trump.
Wow.
I don't have the number breakdown. I just read the story on it. They didn't have the breakdown.
Interesting, because we talked about the West Coast Teamsters, which California, Hawaii, a couple of other states in that group that did come out and endorse, but that was leadership, and we didn't have a breakdown in terms of what the members in those states looked like, in terms of how they voted, or what the poll came back with them, how the poll came back with them. Yeah, I don't, because I'm trying to think of what would have changed between then and now with that group.
They were listening to Red Eye.
Well, yeah, that's a given. We have that kind of power. I'm really fascinated as to what could cause that. Was there one political event, a set of political events? You look at what happened with the cases. You know, when the conviction came down, liberals thought they had won it, and it backfired. The Alvin Bragg case. I mean, it backfired. They celebrated that day and that evening, that afternoon, that evening, they celebrated. The left was celebrating. But it wasn't working. You were creating a martyr in Donald Trump politically. And they realized that, because then they realized they couldn't even say the words convicted felon, because that was coming back in their call-out research as a negative. They quit using it. I don't know that is enough, though, to have that kind of swing.
No.
With that group?
Yeah, to have that. That's the thing. Not that there might not have been a swing of a few points, but to have the massive points that you're talking about, 50-point change between Biden and Harris. What would union members see in Harris that they didn't see in Biden? What's the difference between a Biden and a Harris?
Did they see him as more pro-union?
I don't see how. After the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah. No, I don't either.
Yeah.
But was that the sentiment? This guy is going to be much stronger on the union, and she's not. She's clueless. I don't know.
Yeah, neither do I. I just want to bring it up because it's interesting. I don't have an answer for that one.
Right.
I don't have any answer.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Just because idling is common doesn't make it smart. Idling a diesel uses about a gallon of fuel per hour, which can cost you about $180 per week at $4.50 per gallon if your truck idles 8 hours a day. Idling easily can cost you a few thousand more in fuel alone per year, not including the added engine maintenance expense that results from excessive idling. Harder on your truck's engine than highway driving. In addition to operating costs, many governments impose no idling laws and regulations with fines as high as $25,000. Instead, there are many alternatives. An extra blanket for cold temperatures, window screens for when the weather is warm, bunk heaters, and various auxiliary power unit options abound in this day and age too, many powered just by batteries. Otherwise, diesel and gas gensets burn far less fuel than your truck's engine. Research options to find your fit. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I just love this one here. Breitbart had it. Hollywood star Jane Fonda is hitting the campaign trail for Harris on the belief that the Harris Walls ticket will slash fossil fuels by half in order to address what the actress called the climate emergency. Speaking to CBS News on Monday, Jane Fonda put her climate activism front and center while also proudly discussing her role as a Democratic political influencer. I am really involved this time because of the climate emergency. She believes that Kamala Harris will make progress on the ambitious targets like cutting fossil fuel emissions in half by the end of the decade. And you know how you get there? By fracking.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's why she's pro-fracking. Oh, look, we figured it out. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, if you're looking to add youth to your campaign, look no further than Jane Fonda.
Well, it's just interesting because Jane Fonda knows what she said about fracking, and that hasn't kept her from being out there as a surrogate for the campaign. Yeah. On one hand, she's saying, I'm pro-fracking. On the other end, you've got surrogates out there stating, no, she's going to cut fossil fuels in half.
Yeah.
That's another problem that the campaign has.
And we're going to look into price gouging. Is price gouging actually happen? I don't know. I mean, seriously.
Can't make this stuff up.
Oh, my gosh.
Coming up following the bottom of the hour, why this election, at least to me, in my opinion, looking at all the elections I've analyzed before, why this is one of the toughest. And I'll give you an example of a story out of Chicago, because you just don't know. And maybe, did you call it the silent majority? Did you say that to me a couple of weeks ago or something?
Yeah, I brought that up.
There's a silent majority. I think you said it off the air. Did you say it off the
air? No, we talked about it because, it's kind of hard to define what a silent majority is. I mean, politically, we know what it is. But define who would populate
Can a silent majority be a bunch of silent minorities on different issues, though? Here.
Could be.
That's what we'll get to coming up following the bottom of the hour. Plus, the political motivations are out from the assassin, or excuse me, the attempted assassin. And you know one of the big things? Pro-Iran.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen to the show whenever you want. Isn't that great?
And thank you.
Yeah, whenever you want. Or you can listen to it over again.
Right.
If you didn't get enough the first time.
Right. Gary, by the way, it is a Truck Driver Appreciation Month. Just want to say thank you and a shout out to a couple of drivers. Ed, who works for Brake Transport. He's been driving for 23 years. Bill works for Express Global Systems, and he's been trucking for 8 years. To all the truckers, thank you for delivering the goods. Thank you. If you bought it, a truck brought it, and we greatly appreciate the trucking industry. Not just this month, but year-round and for many years on this program, going back to our original program, which went back to March of 1969.
Now, important note, before man landed on the moon.
Yeah, we were doing this before anyone, because back then, when Bill Mack started the old program, the all-night program on WBAP, you couldn't say, I can't believe they put a man on the moon.
And we can't do this.
But I can't get a telephone cord that won't tangle. Back then, those cords that were, if you're under the age of 40, that's just look it up.
Yeah, you couldn't say, we can put a man on the moon, but I've still got a party line.
Yeah.
And I know anybody, how old do you have to be to not know what a party line is?
Did you ever experience it firsthand?
No, I remember growing up, but it was a big thing.
Yeah, my grandmother had one.
My parents had a private line, and that was like a big deal.
Ooh, look at the McNamaras. They got their own private line.
Yeah.
They can sit and talk dirt about everybody, and nobody can listen.
And that's, if you had a party line, you had a few neighbors that shared the phone with you, basically.
I experienced that. My grandmother, when I was a kid, still had a party line. Yeah.
Man, I'm damn old.
It's weird. It's weird.
It is.
It was weird. I wouldn't use the phone.
Yeah, I never experienced it. I remember it was a feeling of being special, almost as if you were part of the elite.
Yeah. Well, and what I didn't like about using my grandmother's phone, she made me talk old-timey. Hey, Sally, put me through to Charlie, see? I'll wait. Thanks, gal. You're swell. I was like, I don't want to talk that way. You have to. It's the only way she'll understand.
You had a weird family. You did.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a weird family.
That's true. Not denying that. I come from a long line of weirdos.
A party line. I mean, it's like, wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And the town was there was fewer, it was a couple hundred people at that time, and which had grown immensely over the years to that number, but you could pretty much shout out the window and everybody in town would hear you anyway.
I think that, my dad, 98 and a half years young, has probably, if you look at it, you can make the argument the greatest impact on human civilization because of technology.
Yeah.
My father was born in 1926. Think of, good God, we're in 2024. He's almost 100.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
And you think of that when my father was born, people worried about dying from polio. you still didn't have. People could much more easy die from an infection. You didn't have antibiotics at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get that till I think it was in World War II, where finally penicillin, came around. People still had an ice box. Mm-hmm. See, I had grandparents that said, "Could you get something out of the ice box?" And you're like, "Oh, I thought it was a refrigerator," because when I was growing up, refrigerators were there. But when they were growing up, they actually had. And my father, when we was young, very young, they actually had an ice box.
You had ice delivered.
Yeah, you had ice delivered to your house.
Yep.
And so you think of the technology that my father has become comfortable with. I never thought that he would be comfortable on a computer, and he is.
Mm-hmm.
He is, even at his age, he's very comfortable on it, which I didn't think I would see. I didn't think I'd see that in his lifetime. Yeah. That was a surprise, because he was sort of like, everybody's depending on the technology, and the next thing you know, he's like, okay, this thing's really cool. Wow, YouTube. Wow, you really can get a lot. Wow, you really can almost find out anything. Oh, man, YouTube has videos on World War II planes.
Yeah, right.
It's like that was it.
Yeah,
that was it. It was like he was hooked at that point. All right, looking at this election, which is, I think, different than most elections are different, but I think this has an added difference. And we'll see whether people vote this way. It seems as if they are. It seems as if my gut tells me they are. How far? I don't know. But this is the first election in my lifetime where the reality of what government is doing has actually affected every single citizen. It's where liberal economics, it's where socialism, it's where it's irresponsible fiscal behavior has finally hit every single voter in the country. No more is it a hypothetical. On the border, no longer is it a hypothetical. In economics, no longer is it a hypothetical. Government behavior has caused suffering, and the American public understands it. This is a report from ABC 7 in Chicago, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is why I don't know until you have the votes counted where this is going to go. And this is where the Chicago City Council approved $51 million to house illegal migrants for 30 days. Residents were so outraged, police had to escort people out of the city council meeting several times. Here is part of that report. Here we go.
Well, 34 aldermen voted for the $51 million. It did not come out without a lot of controversy, especially from some black residents who say the money should go towards Chicago residents who have been neglected for years.
Very much committed to a revenue stream or revenue streams that ensure that we are dealing with the crises of those who are unhoused in the city of Chicago, while also making sure that there's room for those that we are welcoming.
We need to allocate some of this money for our black children, for the black community.
$51 million for migrants brought some loud and vocal opposition from the public, to the point where police had to escort people out of the city council meeting several times. Mayor Brandon Johnson asked for a 2-minute breather.
We want to make sure that we can continue to conduct the business of the people.
There you go. I don't know how that's going to affect this election. You know, you and I talked about it. It happened when you had the surge during, it was the Obama administration, right?
Yep.
Where you had, and this was specifically Democrat blacks saying, why are they taking care of them before they take care of us?
Right.
And now, so you're talking about something that has been on the back of the minds of not just blacks, but, Americans out there You know, you have the Democrats sit there and here's the thing, the Democrats will sit there and say, you're a nationalist. All you care about is American citizens. Right? Because that's what nationalism is.
Right.
You put America's citizens first. Trump ran on that the first time and won. I think we're back there again because of the Biden administration and what Harris would do on immigration, too. I think we're right back there. I think it might be more powerful than it was in 2016.
I remember the day after the election in 2016 when the Wall Street Journal basically did a man-on-the-street kind of informal survey. And as to why do you think Trump won and Hillary did not? And one of the common threads in the answers was he was focused on issues here at home. She wasn't. She was focused on issues, outside the U.S. And we've watched what has been going on in Chicago. With Mayor Brandon earlier this year, it's just weird thinking because it seems like it was just a month ago. But back in, January, February, when they were saying, okay, we're going to close down the temporary housing for these migrants that are here. And everyone shouted, wait a minute, whoa. It's Chicago. It's winter. You really going to do that? And, of course, they didn't want the optics of that playing out. And they were still, at that point, still leading up to the Democratic National Convention, trying to, solve all of their problems before the DNC, which wasn't going to happen. Because the fact of the matter is people have to live. People are living there with higher crime, not just Chicago, but major blue cities. And all the major cities are blue. Dallas's mayor is Republican because he switched to the Republican Party. But the fact of the matter is you have a number of problems right now in these major blue cities, and a lot of it has to do with illegal immigration. And people don't want this anymore. One of the things that will go down in history is the move made by Governor Abbott in Texas and demonstrating that every town is a border town because these individuals were not forced to get on these buses. They were given a choice. They chose to go to these major cities, and everybody there was screaming, hey, we can't handle this. Remember the mayor of D.C.? Hey, we're not set up for this. We need Texas. Texas towns are set up for this.
Yeah, I remember that.
Are you kidding me?
Well, I think that's the interesting thing because when you look now at the border, it's no longer a hypothetical. It's no longer, those people in Texas have to deal with it or whatever. So the border and economics with inflation, both now a significant, everybody has felt inflation, and way more people now have actually seen the stories and felt the impact of the immigration policy of the Democrats over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. It's no longer hypothetical. It's real. And those are the two top issues. And they're not, I think they'll do better, or I think they'll do better than the Democrats. I already know what Trump is going to do here and what he will do, and I've seen what the Democrats are going to do.
Right.
Kamala, can you give me a reason why I should vote for you when you have supported these things all along?
Right.
You saw the video that came out on her yesterday.
Yeah. But again, they're right now her campaign is chaotic because they don't know where to go. And again, it goes back to the core of what we've been saying all along. They can't solve these problems because they created these problems.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, more on the campaign. You know, you would mention something that we've said for the longest time that the Trump campaign should use, and we said it under Biden, and we also said the same thing under Harris. It should be basically their slogan. Kamala Harris can't solve the problems because she created the problems.
Right.
There is no incentive to solve the problems because this is what they want because they created these problems. We've heard Trump advance
Trump
say
has used
that
it
a couple of times,
right?
But it should have been I still think it should have been the slogan on a consistent basis.
Right.
So people go, so they know it's just not that she can't solve the problem. You need to put in she created the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That puts her campaign constantly on the defensive.
Yeah.
Which is what you want to do
right.
in any type of campaign.
Right. Trump said it, she can't fix it because she caused it. Repeat that over and over again. Outside of your rallies, it should be in your campaign ads. The Republican Party should be using it every day.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He is Eric Harley. All right, I had to go back. I had to search for this. It's been sitting in the back of my mind because we never got a chance to play it last week. All right, I didn't see this audio cut till over the weekend, but this happened last week when the Republicans held a hearing on the Biden-Harris administration and the things that they have done. And this is a witness, Mandy Gunaskara, who was a former Environmental Protection Agency Chief of Staff. And before she gets on with certain things on regulations, she addresses and she goes after, what's his name? Raskin, for saying that 2025 is something that came from Trump.
Right.
But this is just great. I wish you could see, everybody could see in this audio, the look on Raskin's face. He just sort of smiles because she goes right at him. Here we go.
I have a prepared opening statement that I'll get into in just a second, but Ranking Member Raskin, you reiterated and have created a boogeyman that just isn't there. I did author the EPA chapter on Project 2025, but in the course of that, I did not work with President Trump, with any of the people who work for him directly or his campaign. And it is very misleading to suggest that there's any coordination there because I can personally tell you it did not happen. And I am not vying for a position in the next administration. I've actually left D.C. and I've moved to a small town in Mississippi where I interact every day with people who live outside this bubble of gaslighting and misleading. And they actually are dealing with the consequences caused by policy decisions of this administration that isn't defined by progress, but defined by creating unnecessary hardship. I understand why it's hard to think about the political realm prior to President Trump, but the Heritage Foundation has been very involved in pushing forward conservative policies for quite a while. And the Mandate for Leadership, the latest iteration, it's the 9th edition. This is a project that has been put out every few years since 1981. So it's been around for quite some time, and again, is more committed to representing the position of the broader conservative movement than any one candidate or person. And I understand why there is the creation of this boogeyman, because your leading candidate is one running away from policy actions she has taken that make Americans' lives much more difficult. In fact, Vice President Kamala Harris was recently asked on national television the following question: when it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago? She said a lot of words, but she did not answer the question, because the reality is most Americans are not better off. Most Americans are struggling to deal with expensive gas, expensive electricity, and high-cost goods and groceries that have created financial burdens that Americans have had to deal with throughout the Biden-Harris administration. Their day one energy policies are a key driver behind Americans' increasing financial distress. From President Biden's promise to end all fossil fuels, alongside Vice President Kamala Harris's commitment to ban fracking, Americans have suffered under their radical agenda. From the energy perspective, this has included locking up development of resources and demonizing industries, mainly coal, oil, and natural gas, that still provide 80% of our daily energy needs. A recent report from the Institute of Energy Research has been tracking these actions, and they've found that since January 2021, President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and congressional Democrats have taken over 250 actions that make it harder to produce energy in America. This has included stopping construction of the Keystone XL pipeline that immediately cut 11,000 domestic jobs, including thousands of union jobs, issuing a moratorium on new oil and gas permits on federal lands, greenlighting Putin's Nord Stream 2 pipeline while shuttering the development of U.S. pipelines along the East Coast, rejoining the disastrous Paris Climate Agreement that is squeezing out U.S. jobs and increasing the regulatory burden on American companies, launching a war on household appliances that are now 34% more expensive than 15 years ago, blocking the Twin Metals mine, shuttering U.S. steelworker jobs in Minnesota, and cutting off access to critical minerals that we need more and more of. And instead, this administration is making us more and more dependent on China. Slowing permits for LNG facilities from an average of 7 weeks to 11 months, then completely halting permits for new LNG facilities altogether. Mandating that Americans drive electric vehicles despite growing market resistance, infrastructure shortfalls, and a preference for more affordable and reliable gas-powered vehicles. Americans are dealing with the consequences of these actions every time they put gas in their car, pay their electricity bills, or go to the grocery store.
There you go.
Yep.
I know she said she's not looking for a position in this administration. They should go after her. Articulated that very well. You should have seen the smirk on Raskin's face.
Yeah.
Because and I was thinking about this again yesterday, because there are some things that just continually put me in a sense of awe, but perverted awe. And when I look at this, when you look at Republicans, when you look at them on the issues, Republicans are promoting what they believe on the issues. And when they criticize the Democrats on the issues, they're not lying.
You don't have to go.
Right.
That's the thing. You don't have to go very far. Look at all of the mental gymnastics they have to try and do on the left to sell any and every idea. The Republican Party, and we've said this for a while now, right now is we're probably at a peak point of this being true, and that is you point to the opposition. You don't have to point to reality because people are dealing with it every single day. You point to them, they can't fix the problem, they cause the problem, and there's no getting around for the left. There's no getting around reality. You can't live in the bubble today and ignore reality. If you do, then politically it's extremely damaging, to say the least.
I find it fascinating because even Hillary Clinton would promote things that she believed, and you knew they were legitimately what she believed.
Right.
And this administration, and the Harris campaign, everything is a lie.
Yeah.
And it's important because what they promote they wish to do and how they attack the other side is a lie.
Right.
The whole 2025 thing, Trump had nothing to do with it. They try to tie him into it, right?
Yep.
There's nothing there. And really, 2025 is the only thing that they've really brought up. When you think about it, what is the criticism of Trump on the issues he wants to do 2025? How many lies have they told about where Donald Trump IVFs?
Mm-hmm.
The things they attack Trump on are lies, and the things that they attack Trump on that aren't lies, he uses as a political ad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
Well, he's doing exactly what, we've advised, and we wish more Republicans would do, and that's the point. You can play them in their own words. It's why we do it.
But when you look at, everything, when Trump got up there in the debate, goes, he was going to send her a MAGA hat. That all makes sense to people because
Yep.
She claims that she's going to be tougher on the border than Trump.
Mm-hmm.
She claims, was it the border, that she was never for defunding the police,
mm-hmm.
fracking,
mm-hmm.
that she's pro fracking.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows. Democrats know that that's a lie.
Right.
Democrats know it. Everyone knows. She's almost as if she's become the Karine Jean-Pierre of presidential candidates.
Yeah,
I'm going to gaslight
right.
and lie about everything.
Right.
Because nobody believes the positions that she holds that the American people cares about, that she claims now she holds, are 180 degrees from where she was even 2 months ago.
Maybe she should take a piece of advice from Karine Jean-Pierre and carry a big book of answers with her.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't
you're
have,
right.
She doesn't have any.
But I find it amazing because this I've never seen in American presidential politics, where everything, all right, I'll say 95% of what the Democrats are promoting are lies. Either lies about the opposition or lies that they're claiming that they hold a position that they don't have. But when you look at the things that they attack Trump on, Project 2025, got nothing to do with Trump. Absolutely nothing to do with Trump. I mean, that's like the Republicans, taking, I'm trying to think of some leftist group out there that comes out with a report and saying, that's what Biden thinks. And it's like, well, and that's what Harris thinks. Well, they may think alike on some things, but one isn't related to the other.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't done that way. But you think about it. That, the racism charges, the very fine people, the suckers and losers, all these things are lies. They never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And they continue to promote it, but I've never seen a campaign promote lies that are so obviously obviously lies. It's not like, okay, well, that's a nuance. You're promising something or projecting economics out. No, you're talking about things in the past that have been clearly vetted, and they're a major part of your campaign. Because it came up, the suckers and losers, a very fine people. What was the other one?
Bloodbath.
Oh, the bloodbath. Bloodbath. Bloodbath completely taken out of context. He was talking about economic bloodbath.
Right.
And so this I've never, and it's obvious. The bull pooping is.
Meanwhile, he's the target
obvious.
of 2 attempted assassinations.
Yeah.
On the bloodbath thing, that's the one that just, it is so confounding because they want you to, well, look, he's promising, are you kidding me? It's one of those moments over and over again where you think to yourself, they need to stop talking. They need to, but they can't help themselves. The left cannot. They absolutely can't change their tactics. They can't redefine who they are. This is how they think. So this is the kind of political machine you're going to build. You're right with Hillary. I could hear Hillary today saying, aside from saying you should be in jail for misinformation. Hillary Clinton says people who engage in misinformation should go to prison. Say that out loud. I could hear her say...
Would 2016 Hillary say that? If it was her campaign? I don't believe she would.
Well, based on what she was engaging in at the time. But you look, I would say no.
I'm not saying what she believes. I'm saying would she state that?
Yeah.
I've stated that publicly in 2016.
No.
They're Clintons. They're not going to
No.
come out as that radical.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is how now she's willing to promote that radical position and tie it to Harris.
Yeah. But, again, I could hear her or Hillary or another Democrat saying, listen, we made a lot of progress when it comes to health care. We would double check that. And yeah, you did. You increased the prices dramatically. But there's a lot more to do. And I believe we should work toward that end. We should make sure that we have affordable health care for every single American. Blah, 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 blah. The problem is Harris doesn't know how to put any of that together. She grabs this massive goose egg of an idea on price fixing. And then the solution would be price controls? Where the hell did that come from? How do you not even for a moment? It makes me wonder if she even lives inside the Beltway. There are plenty of...
But think about it. Trump with the 10% credit card thing is doing the same thing.
Sure.
He's saying there's the corporate greed out there. There are people that want... Go look at the responses to when Harris brings that out from Democrats. They all say inflation was caused by greed. She's hitting a particular audience which does not wish to blame the government action for inflation, which of course it is, but want to say that the hardship is due to corporate greed, and Trump does the same thing with credit cards.
But it went nowhere. And it goes nowhere for both reasons. Because even the left media saw it for what it is. It's a horrible idea. What are you doing? It's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, she still throws out the greed, but she doesn't talk about...
And the difference, too, is that you blend it all in, and still the majority of the ideas Trump proposes are good ideas, and he's implemented,
I agree with you on that.
and they work. Right. Tell me one Tell me one she's promoting that people are saying, oh, no, that's a great idea. She doesn't have one thing.
I guess that was our point.
Yeah, she doesn't have anything.
866-98 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Interesting poll that was taken on irresponsible rhetoric. We'll get to that political rhetoric coming up. And the editorial Wall Street Journal, the political motives of the attempted assassin, the man lying in wait for Donald Trump at his Florida golf course, disliked Trump's policies on Iran.
All right.
Think about that. I mean, it's right. You think about that. That's the mainstream of the Democratic Party, because the mainstream of the Democratic Party is to ensure that Iran has funding in order to be able to supply funds to their surrogates that are Islamic terrorists of Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, as we all know.
Right.
And so this guy basically is saying, you know, that in the letter that he wrote, he supports it, furious that Trump killed the Iran deal.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing. You know, this is, as we call, the pro-terrorist mainstream of the Democratic Party. We'll have more coming up. It's Red Eye Radio, and he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We have to mention this because we can never forget what the government did during COVID. Reading here from National Review, it should come no surprise that it took 4 years and a podcaster to expose the hypocrisy of New York City's former COVID czar, given how quickly the corporate press fell into line behind the public health experts during the pandemic, treating criticism of their personal conduct as a threat to the collective.
Mm-hmm.
New York City's former COVID czar is in hot water after he was caught on hidden camera bragging about the organizing of sex parties during the strict COVID lockdown he oversaw in 2020. The only way that I could do this job for the city was if I had some way to blow off steam every now and then, Jay Varma said in a video filmed by an undercover reporter whom the czar believed he was on a date with.
Wow.
In a secretly obtained recording, Varma can be heard discussing a pair of sex parties that he and his wife arranged in hotels in August and November in 2020, and admitted it would have been a real embarrassment for the city if he had been caught. I did all this deviant, like, sexual stuff while I was, like, you know, like on TV and stuff. People were, and by the way, I'm reading this as a quote.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, and all that. And while I was like, you know, like on TV and stuff, people were like, aren't you afraid? Aren't you embarrassed? And I was like, no. I'm like, I love being my authentic self, he said.
And apparently loves talking about it on dates.
Yep. On the gathering in August, he said 8 to 10 people attended. Everybody had a blast because everybody, like, was so pent up. New York rules at the time limited gatherings to 10 people or fewer. The Atlantic reports at the time, the city also urged residents to keep group sex to a minimum. That's the advice that Eric gives me all the time, being the single one here.
You're just waiting for other people.
That's right. Just waiting for the other. Where are the other people?
I'm just waiting for all the other people. Keep it to a minimum. Fewer than 10. You. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
At the time, the city also urged residents to keep group sex to a minimum.
Yeah.
That may be one of my favorite lines I've ever read on the radio.
We also believe that it's in the best interest of public health to keep to a minimum group sex. Seriously.
You know what the next question is?
Uh-huh.
Were they wearing masks?
That's the important part. Put on a mask.
Oh, boy. We could lose. I have to stop there. Otherwise, we may put in jeopardy all of our great radio stations.
I'll just throw in this
FCC license.
Just throw in this last line. Hey, just for the record, you're wearing the mask wrong. Oh, my gosh.
You know what I did when I was all pent up during COVID?
You stayed pent up?
No, I'd golf.
Oh.
Because the golf courses were still open. They were closed for a time, but then they were open by August.
Yeah.
And November. I mean,
golf courses and liquor stores.
Think about that. I'm the single guy. What the heck? I'm a little pent up. How about some group sex? I keep going back to Seinfeld. Remember the Menage a Trois episode? I can't do it. I need new friends, candles, lotions, and robes.
Yeah. Think about the whole thing. I mean, you had to. Many of us believed it at the time that something was up, and were frustrated with the government control of everything, because basically the rules were, hey, you can't go to work. Hey, you can't go to school. Liquor stores are open. And in fact, we're going to change some of the liquor laws so you can get it delivered. And also, you can take delivery now. It's a takeout item from a restaurant. Also, the golf courses are open. So, hey, get out of that gym. What are you doing? What are you, crazy? People could die.
Weren't they still hitting people at gyms?
Yeah,
they were hitting people at gyms by that.
Yes.
And in New York especially.
Right. And keep group sex to a minimum.
Please keep group sex to under 10.
Oh, I have an old joke line that I cannot. Has to do with drinking, but we'll just leave it at that while I still have a job.
Well, it's what you always said. They never believed what they were trying to sell you.
We knew that. We knew that with Newsom right away. Everybody stay home, your kids stay home, everybody stay home, stay home. Close your business, except for my winery. And also, I'm going to a large dinner with friends of mine who include doctors, and we're going to be sitting so close, we're practically sitting on other people's laps, and we'll be laughing throughout the entire thing. Oh, and don't you leave the house. We saw it for what it was. It wasn't hypocrisy. No. they didn't buy the science. They didn't believe it.
Right.
Because if they did for a moment, remember how they were trying to sell it. They didn't buy it, and we know that based on their behavior. We know that they didn't buy the science. They didn't believe it. They wanted control. It was a Democrat's biggest dream come true. Oh, my gosh, we can control people and movement and industry and speech. Oh, my gosh, what can't we control now? We can control the medical field to a certain extent. We can control so many things with this thing in play.
But you can't control sex parties.
And
Can't
listen,
regulate them during COVID.
liquor stores open at 9 and keep your sex parties to a minimum.
Well, yeah, the essential services, liquor stores and sex parties.
That's right.
Keep the masses happy.
You can't have one without the other. So there's, I mean, that was the equation. And that's why we all looked at it and said, what? No, they don't buy the science themselves. They're controlling us, yet they don't actually regulate everything. Remember the whole thing of you can only leave your home if you're, you know, on the way to do things.
Oh, yeah. Remember,
I mean, it was
either work or getting groceries.
Which, how do you prove someone's not on their way to get groceries?
Well, I don't think our police department paid attention to
No,
any of
none
that.
of them did because of that. What I just said.
Yes.
Exactly. It would be impossible to enforce such rules. Only necessary personnel, only critical personnel. Well, who's not? I mean, anybody involved in any supply chain or grocery store or anything like that.
And you had a councilwoman, Ina Vernikov, of yesterday, New York City Hall. We couldn't bury our grandparents. People could not attend burials of their own parents. All while this one sicko was partying at the same time. He was mandating this on all New Yorkers.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Let's hear. I have some audio of it. Here we go. Of her speaking.
All right.
Thank you to Stephen Crowder for uncovering and exposing what we all already knew. Thank you. There were almost 9 million New Yorkers in the city. Most of them were forced to vaccinate. And the majority of them, a lot of them, had medical consequences from having to vaccinate. A lot of them lost their jobs because they had to vaccinate, because they didn't want to vaccinate. We couldn't bury our grandparents. People couldn't attend burials of their own parents. All while one sicko, yes, I said it, one sicko was partying. At the same time, he was mandating this on all New Yorkers.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's true. Now, that was before the vaccine, just so people know the timeline.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
It was August and November.
Right.
So.
The first vaccines didn't hit until December? Was it December?
Yeah, December. Yeah, December, and then for medical personnel, I think it was early December, and then by the middle of December, they started bringing in people that were high risk.
Remember, they were laughing at Trump when he said, "No, we're going to have the vaccines will be out soon." At the one debate, and the media, the left just laughed at him.
Well, he doesn't promote that as much now.
He doesn't now. Well, and there's the thing.
Look, he did talk about it though, and when I saw him talking about it the other day, and he was right. There are certain demographics that are high risk that the vaccine actually helps.
Well, the vaccine thing has always been on any vaccine. It really is a personal choice, and that personal choice gets back to what your individual situation is, the information you have between you and your doctor. And when you start mandating things, when the government starts mandating things, then it becomes problematic. Because there isn't a one-size-fits-all to any of it.
But you think about it, they just knew. I mean, Newsom knew it wasn't going to be a problem. You've got to obey the laws. I don't. Newsom didn't care. Their party accepts the hypocrisy of their leaders. And as we said, Newsom never, that was the important thing. Newsom never believed in the science that was being thrown to him about COVID.
Right.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted that way.
Right.
And he had much more access to the information as a governor of a major state than any normal Joe or Jane six-pack.
Right. Yeah. You look at those, you look at the individuals who are part of relaying that information to the public, who have, in fact, an obligation to relay the truth to the American public. That's a totally different story, but they've got access to all of that data.
And you remember, because you can't live in the bubble of today, while this guy in November was holding another sex party, remember, and in New York especially, they had police watching houses if there were too many cars in the houses. I remember that in New York. I remember that outside of Buffalo. Somebody got arrested for it.
Your Thanksgiving gathering
cops
should be kept to a minimum.
Yep.
They were talking about that.
Remember Thanksgiving, then it came to Christmas, the same thing.
Yep. And they wanted to keep it going as long as they could because, again, it was their biggest dream come true. They had control of everything.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up on the top of the hour, one more note on the former New York City COVID czar, the hypocrisy of having sex parties during that time. I just did a little bit of research and found out what they were doing to other people in November of that year, which is when he had the last sex party. And you and I were asking the question, the guy said he and his wife threw the sex parties. How do you broach that topic with someone else?
I don't know.
How does that begin?
I don't know.
Well, what are you doing Friday?
That's the opposite of intimacy to me.
What are you doing Friday? Why, you got something? We're thinking of having a sex party.
I have this idea. Hear me out. Yeah, no. And then saying, you're organizing it. That means you're inviting people you don't know. No. No. Yeah. No.
Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Just sitting here taking a look at potential tropical cyclone 9.
Number 9.
The what?
Number 9.
Number 9,
Number
yes.
9.
Not even a tropical storm yet. Looks like it's a couple of 100 miles south of Cuba right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing, once it picks up speed, once it gets into the Gulf, once it gets north of, actually just a little bit northwest of Cuba, when it becomes a hurricane, that thing is moving fast. Because in the 24 hours from 8 p.m. Wednesday to 8 p.m. Thursday, when it's supposed to be a hurricane, up to 110 miles an hour right now. So not a major hurricane predicted at this moment, but that, as we know, could change. It covers a heck of a lot of distance from really it's almost parallel with the north end of Cuba and hits the Big Bend of Florida by 8 p.m. Thursday, 24 hours later. That's a fast-moving hurricane.
Yeah.
That's going to pick up speed. So not a hurricane yet, not even a tropical storm, but just looking at it right now. And the fact is I'm constantly reminded by all my friends in Tampa. Now, it's not supposed to hit Tampa head-on at all, but Tampa will feel the effects.
Sure.
I'm sure.
Right.
Winds and rain and everything else. And then once it hits, supposed to go right up through Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee and Kentucky, Indiana and Ohio. So they're going to see a lot of western part of South Carolina and North Carolina. So they're going to see a lot of probably rain.
Right.
A lot of rain comes from that.
Yep.
So.
And we'll definitely keep an eye on it over the next couple of days.
Yeah, we will. Just wanted to keep people updated on
One of the models yesterday morning looked very nefarious. It looked like this thing had the potential to become a Cat 3 or stronger. And we'll see. Things can still change. If it slows down over warm water, does it have the conditions? Are the conditions right for this to become stronger than a Category 1? Could it become a Category 2 or even 3? Things do change with these storms quite often. So make sure if you're anywhere along any of the western or north coast of Florida that you're paying attention. Because really, when you look at these storms, the footprint of these storms in terms of rain often covers most of the state, if not all of the state at some point. So you want to make sure that you're up to date on the information. Pay attention to the local advisories and the state advisories on possible evacuations. We'll definitely keep you posted.
So, yeah, we were talking about, wanted to give another update on that story that we were talking about. The former New York City, former COVID czar. Did I say former New York City, former? Is saying former twice a double negative? New York City's former COVID czar was in hot water after he was caught on a hidden camera bragging about organizing sex parties during strict COVID lockdowns he oversaw in 2020. The only way I could do this job for the city was if I had some way to blow off steam every now and then. The video was filmed by an undercover reporter whom the czar believed he was on a date with.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's New York City Health Department, Dr. Jay Varna back then, deputy commissioner. He said in the secretly obtained recording, he can be heard discussing a pair of sex parties that he and his wife arranged at hotels in August and November in 2020. I guess probably a lot of married guys would know, how do you approach your wife with the idea of sex parties?
Oh, I know. You don't.
No, okay. Just wondered.
Number one, because you.
Yeah.
When you talk about they arrange them, what do you post it on social media, then strangers show up?
Honey, you're just not enough for me. I need, 8 or 9 other people.
If we had a group, then that whole intimacy thing would be great.
We need to increase our personal intimacy.
Yeah.
But he can be heard discussing on the tape a pair of sex parties that he and his wife arranged in hotels in August and November of 2020.
Now, the fact that he thinks he's on a date when this was all this stuff that he said he thought he was on a date, does that tell us that he's no longer married?
I don't know. Yeah. He said it would have been a real embarrassment for the city if he had been caught. I did all this deviant, sexual stuff while I was like on TV and stuff. people were like, aren't you afraid? Aren't you embarrassed? And I was like, no. Actually, I'm like, I love being my authentic self. Of the gathering in August, he said 8 to 10 people attended. Everybody had a blast because everybody was like so pent up.
Yeah.
At the time, the city urged residents to keep group sex to a minimum, urging New Yorkers to limit the size of their guest lists.
But if we catch your kids playing together, if they're out in the yard, if they're going for walks, we're coming after you. Keep your drinking and group sex to a minimum.
Okay, in June of 2021, he left his job as senior health advisor for City Hall, but was still consulting on COVID policies for the city.
Okay.
He attended a dance party with more than 200 people underneath the bank on Wall Street. We were all rolling. We were all taking Molly, MDMA, and everybody's high. And I was so happy because I hadn't done that in like a year and a half, except he did it in November or August and November because he also admitted he was on MDMA at that point, too. They're all high as could possibly be at that point. Now, the reason I'm bringing it up again, I'm not just repeating the story. I'm just giving you background in case you just tuned in because we had talked about it at the last part of last hour because I thought this had happened at the same time. This is just one example of what was going on, and this is in New York. And I knew it was outside Buffalo. I was remembering the one Christmas party, then I remembered the gym. Erie County Health Department confirms that it has fined Robbie De Niro, the owner of Athletes Unleash. Now, they had pent-up demand, but they worked it out, on the machines.
Yeah,
stuff,
right. Yeah.
They were pent up, but the owner of Athletes Unleashed in Orchard Park, after a confrontation with the health department, De Niro told Fox News on Tuesday that the fine was $15,000. De Niro then appeared to rip up the fine on live television. According to the Erie County Department of Health, the person identified as a gym owner refused to accept the document, and it was taped to the front door of his business. At the time of the inspection, and it's very important to note what the date was, on November 20th, 2020, the facility address was located within a New York State Cluster Action Initiative Orange Zone, as defined by New York State Executive Order, with a non-essential gathering limit of 10 persons. Further, during a non-essential gathering, the business owner, building owner, and those otherwise authorized on their behalf or otherwise authorized to use the building did not deny entry to attendees who were not wearing face coverings as verified by the inspection. De Niro told the news that the health inspectors came out of the private property and had no business being there.
Did you say his name is Robbie De Niro?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know whatever happened in that case.
You're looking at me while I'm doing squats?
Yeah.
You must be looking at me. There's nobody else here.
Because the restrictions went too far. And I remember he was talking about the fact that, look, people that are here are young. And they're working out. They're getting in shape, which is good. If the more healthier you are, the more you could stand you could withstand the virus. But to close us down and do that, and now that wouldn't happen. They wouldn't close them down now.
No.
Well, New York might still. You never know. New York and California might do the exact same thing. In Michigan, they might do the exact same thing again. But there'd probably be more pushback. But just understand at the time where they were fining him $15,000 for people that were, number one, separated, but working out in a workout place, lifting weights. The whatever the bike's called.
Stationary bike?
Stationary bike, yeah, doing all that stuff. They were working out and exercising, and here you have at the same time, the New York City, maybe not New York State, but New York City COVID czar who's holding sex parties.
Keep your sex parties to a minimum. I'm sorry, are you working out? Come out with your barbells up. This is we knew it at the time. We saw the inconsistencies left and right. And the problem is that, you bring up, okay, would they do this? What would they get away with today? Well, this is the problem. This is the reason they had to get it right then. It's one thing if we talk about, all right, look, for a week or two, we got to sort this out and figure out how this virus works. Then we can go from there. But we've judged our own risks as a free society for a long time. They include getting in the car and driving, eating red meat, don't tell the left, using a gas stove in your own kitchen, don't tell the left. All of these things we do every single day. It's constant risk assessment. Now, we're not sitting down and crunching the numbers on it. But the problem is, if there were another pandemic that were extremely dangerous, how much would the public trust from local, state, and federal government?
Well,
after COVID, even with people, I mean, seriously, you think about it. You look at the flu of 1918. I mean, everybody knew. Because it's dangerous, because it's deadly, you see a lot of people dying. But even in a situation like that, if it were to come about, God forbid, how much trust will we put in the information that we're being given?
Well, with everything, including that, you've said it many times, you don't trust anything anymore, neither do I.
I just don't. I
Coming
really
from
don't.
government, I don't trust a damn thing.
I just don't.
And that's not being a rebel or a radical.
Or an old man.
It's or a grouchy old man. It's what we've experienced in the reality of the lack of truth-telling and the hypocrisy where it was obvious from the people that were trying to close in your life and make you very, very pent up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Weren't following the same rules themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't believe what they were selling you. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done what they've done. Or you could say they did believe that COVID was dangerous, but still said my freedom to do the things that I wish to do is more important, that I have assessed the risks and I will decide what I do, as they're telling other people, you can't do that.
Right.
You can't do what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm part of the elite.
Right.
I can do whatever the hell I want. Either way, sorry, you can't run a society that way.
Well, the trust is gone. I mean, just say the word Fauci. Walk into a conversation. Hey, how about that Fauci, huh? Oh, I mean,
I don't know. I think that Republicans and a lot of independents would do exactly what you and I would do.
Critical thinkers.
I think a lot of Democrats would still look at him as a hero.
Well, they still wear masks, so there's nothing I can do about that. I actually did. I came across 3 people. I actually, over the weekend, had to say to someone, I can't hear you because of your mask. And I couldn't. And you want to wear a mask, that's up to you. You're giving me instructions or information. I'm going to need to hear that clearly.
Did she or he accuse you of being maskophobic?
Nope.
Okay.
Because I would have thrown that back too.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive, instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Looking at some of the polls out there, the left was sort of freaking out yesterday over the New York Times latest Siena Research poll on Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia, showing Trump up 5 points over Harris in Arizona, 50-45, 49-45 in Georgia, 49-47 in North Carolina. What was the one that showed that he was up in was the one that showed he was up 3 in Pennsylvania? Did I see that yesterday?
Let me see.
Yeah, I just...
I don't see one at RCP in Pennsylvania. Insider Advantage was from, that's an older poll. That goes back, well...
No, it was Jason Miller, senior advisor for Trump. Saying that, I'll play it from the bottom of the hour, saying poll after poll shows that Trump is up in Pennsylvania. He goes, we've seen polls, which means they're internal polls, showing us narrowly leading Wisconsin. Same thing with Michigan, showing us there with a slight lead. I'll have that audio coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Plus, you've heard a lot about crime statistics. Wall Street Journal did a couple of in-depth analysis of it, saying, well, here's the numbers that have come out that are probably the most accurate, in which you ask people whether they've been victims of crimes and reported it or not what the police or the FBI or the police are reporting to the FBI, because as we found out, those lists are incomplete. But when you go directly to the people, what do they say? That's a Census Bureau thing that they do. That coming up.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, the poll that came out that scared Democrats yesterday was a New York Times Siena poll showing on the Sunbelt states that Trump is leading. And if that's the case, all he needs is to get one of the Great Lakes states in order to basically win. Here's Trump advisor Jason Miller yesterday.
Yeah, this is great news. And to go and kind of break it down and put it in perspective for you. So with President Trump leading in these Sunbelt states, we talk about Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, that means he just needs to get one of the Great Lakes states. We talk about Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. You just have to get one. And poll after poll shows President Trump leading in Pennsylvania. We've seen polls showing us narrow leading in Wisconsin. And same thing with Michigan, showing us with a slight lead there. But he only needs to win one of those. I think he's in position to go and sweep the table like he did in 2016. But the reason, Rob, and you asked what has changed, what's become different, President Trump over the last couple of weeks has really started to lay out his vision. Here's what he's going to do on taxes and to bring prices down in the economy. Here's what he's going to do to secure our border. But Kamala Harris has either been hiding from the media or she goes on to shows like Oprah and can't answer a basic question and gives some gobbledygook word salad that goes viral and people realize, hey, there doesn't seem to be a lot going on there.
Yeah.
You know, that's a advisor. And so you say, okay, where's the propaganda in there? Because he's a campaign advisor, right? That's what you look
sure.
That's what we look for. And anytime I'm like, not much there. Not much pride. That's sort of an accurate layout of what's been happening. Trump has been much more focused. He's been as focused as he's ever been. I'll put it that way.
Right. Well,
no candidate is perfect, but he's doing the best campaigning that I think he's ever done. And of course, you know, when he relates to Oprah, Jason Miller, he's talking about the whole gun thing, where she couldn't even hold that position. And the fact is, they pushed so hard on the gun thing that they were gun owners. I mean, the first picture that came out of Walz was him in the camouflage holding the gun, and the campaign was out there saying the Republicans can't handle a testosterone-laden Democratic man. A month later, they're saying, well, you know, he represents a different type of man. Still a man, but a different type of man.
Right.
I find it interesting, though, that the Democrats are really getting into trying to define now what is a real man when they can't identify what a woman is. I mean, that's really interesting. It's like, you know, okay, where are we with a man? What kind of a man do we want? The testosterone-laden man or the, as Dana Bash said, well, he's not the Walz isn't the testosterone kind of guy. It's like, oh my God. I mean, when you get into identity politics, it's got to suck in your mind. Well, because that's all you're thinking of is, how do I define what? I don't care whether you carry a gun. I don't care whether you wear camouflage as a man. I don't care whether if you look like a Portland hipster. If on the issues you're conservative, you got my vote.
I actually know somebody who looks like a hipster who is a staunch conservative.
Okay.
He's younger than us. He's a generation younger, and I kind of bring it up and make jokes about it. Yeah, it's the whole thing on the camouflage.
Oh, jeez. I mean, the identity politics,
and the whole under the hood of the car thing.
Oh, God, yes.
You know what it looks like? Looks like to me, like when I'm at there's a chain of convenience stores and a lot of construction and road construction crews in the morning when we get out of here. They go into those convenience stores, and that's how they, I try and stay out of their way. Because they load up on ice and drinks for the day and their breakfast and everything else. And then they come back at lunch. But when I pull in there at 5 a.m. to get gas, and then there's like all these construction guys walking around saying, I'm going to work on my truck and I'm putting windshield wiper fluid in. Never mind that I'm putting it in where the oil goes. I'm putting it somewhere. But no, it's one of those, it really reminds me, it's the poser mentality, and the problem is you can't recreate that. And they keep trying to recreate these moments. And in the Harris-Walz campaign, the one to me that stands out is the Doritos moment, going into a store, and then they clearly have to stop and do it again. And her husband's in there, and Tim Walz is in. All of it looks odd. It looks weird. It's far beyond cringe. And I just don't know. I don't know where they're getting this advice. But think about this, though. If you said, I think, was it yesterday or earlier in this show? They all kind of run together. The young people that come out and I think it was early when we were playing the one audio cut from the person from her campaign that didn't know about the price gouging. Well, I don't know if there's actual price gouging. What do I know? And you made the comment that, look, they get a bunch of young people in here that don't really know how anything works. Well, think about the way that viral things on social media work. If you're hip to it, you understand what's contrived, even from real people that are on social media. They'll try and make something look like something it's not. They'll try and they'll create this moment only to make it go viral. It's a new kind of clickbaiting. And sometimes it's kind of funny and how they set it up. And it's probably the mindset of somebody or a group of somebody's of that generation going, look, we can make it go viral. We can make it go viral. Oh, look, Tim's working on his car. Oh, look, they're shopping for Doritos.
Well,
I mean, seriously.
I think they're trying to repackage class warfare, and they haven't figured out how to do it.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Because
we'll make it go viral. It's to serve that class warfare thing.
To serve the class warfare that Trump is a billionaire and hasn't changed an air filter in his vehicle in such a long time.
Right.
But he looks so uncomfortable, with that air filter that there were accusations that he really didn't change it. Look how clean he is. And I mean, it got to be humorous because you're just like, stop being so contrived. That's the thing. Trump's just out. He's going to be who he is. Trump is a billionaire. I'm a billionaire. I've had successful businesses. I've done it, been in commercial real estate for, my entire life. It's what I do. Here are the plans that I have to make the country better. I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to pretend that I'm you because I know you're smart enough not to care whether I'm you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so you first saw it. And the reason I say it's their poor attempt, it's their attempt to rebrand class warfare, like maybe the Bernie Sanders kind of class warfare. Remember that you're a college student and billionaires are the reason that you can't afford to go to college, which never made sense to begin with. I mean, that was sort of a big, disconnect, even though we did have that one student from UCLA call us at one time and say, I have to pay for my college and it's so expensive and it's the billionaire's fault. How do you know it's the billionaire's fault? Well, Bernie Sanders told me. But when you had it started because it really wasn't fully thought out. It started with J.D. Vance going after him for being poor and graduating from an Ivy League college.
Right.
As if that was something bad.
Right.
And so that shows the confusion in the campaign where guys, look, if you're going to get class warfare right, you got to get it right. I mean, the rich against the poor, the haves against the have-nots. But you really can't go with this guy was poor and rose to the highest level of college, served in the military, and that's bad.
Yeah, right.
How? Explain. And they never explained it.
In fact, the left would skip over the military service part quite often. We had to remind them. But they did that. And I don't know who's looking at this going, oh, politically, this is gold.
And so that's where they then started. I mean, that's what started the meme. She had to stop it. They realized this is backfiring against us because they would, like I said, the meme I saw the other day, and it was, Diddy in the interrogation room, and he's saying, well, I was born in a middle-class household.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what a joke it became because she was doing it and he was doing it, repeating the same lines.
Right.
I mean, the exact same lines. It's if they had a text to do it in, and it's like anybody in campaigning 101 would have said, well, look, here's the general thing, but don't read it word for word and don't use it for everything. And make sure that when you use it, it applies to the topic. What do you think about the baseball game? I was born in a middle class, it never made sense when people want a direct answer, for example, on inflation, because that's where she used it the first time. That's where she would use it. And then Walls also used it, and she used it a few times. As soon as she did it 2 or 3 times, that's the other thing, too. If you use the exact same wording 2 or 3 times, it goes viral. You might have been able to get away with doing that 50 years ago.
Yeah.
When everything wasn't, on social media the next day. but you've got to come off as genuine. And when you are asked a question on inflation, how are you going to solve the cost of goods and services out there? Well, let me tell you, and let's go back, and let me tell you about myself and how I was born. That's what's in the damn question. Answer how people are suffering. They want to know how you're going to get it done.
Yep.
And so there's a greater sensitivity to BS.
Yeah, there really is. I think so. I think you and I, in fact, talked about that. It gets back to the personal fact-checking now. We have become fact-checkers because we have the ability. But on things like inflation, we don't need a fact-checker. We have a grocery store checker. That's somebody who brings us reality at every turn. It's like, oh, my gosh, how is it $90? I got 4 things. And those are the things that, again, the Democrats can't change. We are in hyper reality mode right now. Reality right now is harsh. This idea of Trump winning, just one of the Great Lakes states. Well, keep in mind, in 2016, he won Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And you look at the sentiment that is going on with the border right now that is very similar to what the Wall Street Journal found in the days after the 2016 election. And that is, look, why aren't they, and we're talking about from primarily blue voters. Well, they're focused on, the Democrats are focused on people from other nations. And meanwhile, the Republicans and Trump are focused on what's going on here. They want to secure the border. If that sentiment holds and is a big driver, and I suspect that it is, and then you have other things that are, of course, the economy. But the economy in states like that, in Pennsylvania, when you talk about fracking, Fetterman didn't help. He hurt the cause for his own party here because Pennsylvania, the birthplace of oil and natural gas exploration and drilling, and you don't understand what's at risk here. You see what's going on with the Teamsters. You see these are working class states. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. That's a shared value on the border. We want American jobs, and like it or not, when Trump brings up tariffs, that's one of those things that to the populist in those states, that perks their ears up.
Well,
we can have the discussion and say whether it works or not. It doesn't matter. What's appealing to voters in those states? What's he hitting on? And what are they worried about right now? What do they want fixed? And who do they believe can fix it? That's the question.
If Pennsylvanians get back to their God, guns, and oil,
Exactly.
Trump will win.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. By the way, when I said if Pennsylvanians cling to their God, guns, and oil, Trump will win, that was a sarcastic comment from when
back in the Obama
days. Said it.
Yeah.
Was that the primary when that happened?
He said it. Yeah, he said it at a fundraiser.
Yeah.
I guess expecting it not to get out. I don't remember. I don't know I don't know, actually, if he expected it to get out and get back to the press. But the people back in Pennsylvania cling to their God and their guns. Well, we'll see what happens and how the voters in those states, in those key states, vote coming, in less than 6 weeks.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.